Hey everyone, so if you watched the last video, this is gonna technically be a continuation based on what I went over before. Not so much in what to buy, but once you've purchased it and you've stocked up some upgrade material, one of the things that was requested of me was just to kind of explain which upgrades to do, or essentially in what order, what's the best way of doing it. So I switched over to my baby account, so that way I can kind of explain it a little bit better. So the way that you want to do this, regardless of which one of these, regardless of which category you want to do, the best way of doing this, well, starting with the gear, is to always focus on, like, this account is melee, so because it's melee, it's always better to start on upgrading whatever is going to give you an attack boost. So in this situation, I would recommend start with the abdomen and the head, since both of those are going to give you an attack bonus. And once those two are upgraded to whatever level you want, then you would then do the mandible and the leg, since that's going to increase your defense stats. For the most part, everything else, as you upgrade it, it's going to just essentially upgrade all three at the same time. So if it's Gene, it doesn't really matter, but it makes sense to focus on one fighter type, unless you know you're going to spend a bunch of money in this, and you're already set on doing that. Then you can try to upgrade all three at the same time. But what ends up happening is you'll usually be behind the curve. You'll be much weaker than most, just because instead of having one main fighter type, you're spread too thin amongst all three categories. So if you're just starting up and you're going to start upgrading, the best way of doing it is just choose which fighter type you want to focus on, and just focus on that until, I would say, until you have things to about 3-star. So I think I have like one here that's 3-star, so that's considered a T8. Once you have it at a T8, especially with the gear, as you can see here, the moment that you have this at level 3, technically your haste stats are also going to increase, as well as your range stats. So when you go, essentially when you're going in, you can essentially choose which army is going to be your second army. So if you see like the next best stats that you have are range, for example. So let me go into the arena. So once you go in here, you look at your stats. So right now my melee stats are the highest, and it looks like my second highest is going to be ranged. So I'm not really focusing on range right now, but when the time comes and I have my stats to where I want them for my melee, then I can start essentially putting anything extra that I have into my secondary army, which in this situation would be my range fighters. Reason why I would go with the range is because since I'm melee, chances are people who are haste are going to try to come after me, since melee is weak to haste. But if your nest is full of ranged fighters, they're going to receive a lot of losses, because of course now your nest is full of their counter, which would be range, beats haste. Actually, that might be a good video to kind of talk about separate from this. But I think most people understand that melee is strong against ranged, and ranged is strong against haste, and then haste is strong against melee. So typically, like on the top of the charts up here, you're usually going to see like a lot of changing happening at the top, because while I may be stronger than one person, let's say I might be strong against someone that's going to be range based, but then that range fighter might be able to beat someone who's beating me because they're haste. So it essentially continues to move around. Your stats have to be at least 40% higher than the opposing force. So for example, on my main account, My stats are so high that I usually can beat most melee base type. Last stump, I went against Carslinger, I think is his name, from 273, and his stats were technically under my range, but they were strong enough to where he definitely would beat out my army. And even in the arena, he was definitely punishing me because he had the advantage with the melee fighters. So going back to this again, when you're upgrading, try to focus on anything that's going to give you your attack stats first, and then you can focus on your defense. For the most part, Gene and Cell are going to kind of do all three at the same time, but between Gear and Totems, it's going to be divided. When it comes to Totem, I would definitely recommend you to start on your attack base totem first. So the Unity Totem, and then after the Unity Totem, I would focus on the Friendship, so that way your health gets boosted, and then after the health, then the defense. Because in my opinion, if you have very high defense but low health, then you'll hold out, but you're gonna still die relatively quickly. Whereas if you have a high amount of HP and a decent level defense, you're gonna be able to hold out longer in the battle because you have so much health. Anyone who played like RPG games, I'm sure that lingo is probably going to be understandable, just because, you know, if you have a crazy amount of health, even if you're not that strong, it turns out to be like a battle of endurance, and if you can last longer, you'll end up winning. Okay, so again, if you guys have questions or you have other ideas or things that you want me to talk about, feel free to leave a comment down below, or I know a lot of people will send me messages in game, and I'm going to do my best to try to get these videos out for you guys, so that way, you know, more people can go through and essentially not fall in the pitfalls that most of us have already fallen through. It sucks when I'm playing on this and then I see people do things that I did before, and it's just like, oh, let me break this down or explain why you don't want to do it that way, because you end up spending way more money than you need to, or your stats essentially could have been higher if you would have done it the right way. But again, hope this has helped someone out there. If it has, leave a like, and I guess you can subscribe if you like the channel. Again, I am going to try to put more videos out and just essentially have more content out. Thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.